Good morning, everyone. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is about Wednesday. Well, it's Wednesday, 10:39. It is a very cold day. It was well, we've been getting spoiled, and it's been strange, but we've had a lot of 40-degree weather. One day it was actually in the 50s. Consecutive days of that, very strange. But today it's actually very chilly, very cold. Usually when I start my day, typically is my routine is I usually get like some coffee, like most people, and then I get up a little bit, get my juices flowing, and then I usually go into my practice space and turn the heater. I have a little separate building on my property that I use for my music stuff, so I have to, and I have a little heater in there. So during the winter, I have to heat it, and I turn it on. And usually on a really cold day, it will take at least an hour and a half to 2 hours for it to get comfortable in there. But it's been so warm that it doesn't take that long at all. So now but today it will take a little while longer. So that's typically what I do is then I go out to the space and turn on the heat, and that's usually when I can tell if it's really cold or really warm. So it's been a wild weather pattern. There's still no snow in the forecast. I think we've had two snowstorms all winter. It's crazy. But anyway, way back when I had mentioned that I had a bunch of problems with my stuff here. My internet had gone. It was around Christmas time. My internet, we had these big storms, like these weird tropical storms that hit Maine all of a sudden, and lost power. I lost power for a few days. I'm not sure if it totally had something to do with it, but the internet started acting really weird that I have here, and then the modem died, and so then there was this whole time where I had to wait about a week and a half to get a new modem, and then get a new. And then from there, my setup was, I realized how old my setup was. So from there, I ended up having to get a whole new computer setup system by going through a new company. So that took a while. And so there was like a long lag that as far as uploading videos, I was still able to record them. So, but then also around that time, my system, my TV, and my DVD player died. So I had this backup DVD player that was okay, but I had all these problems with my last player where I had bought a bunch of movies and I couldn't play them anymore. I couldn't play them at all on my player. It was really frustrating. I had bought some movies in my travels, some DVDs, and then it even started happening with Blu-rays where I couldn't play any of the movies. But now I got this newer setup and system, which I'm really happy with, and I kind of think it's the best setup I've had. And I didn't have to spend a lot of money with getting a TV and a new sound system and a cheaper Blu-ray player that plays DVDs, but it's actually really good quality. So now I don't have any problems watching any content. So I've been watching a few things that I couldn't watch before. One of the movies that I watched last night, and I ended up watching it a little bit on the late side, so I didn't make it all the way through, but enough to where I couldn't believe how amazing this is. And I bought this. This is a movie, Andy Milligan's Surgikill. And this movie is, first off, it's by Andy Milligan, who I own. I own a couple of his films, Legacy of Blood, and I think I have one other one on Blu-ray. And those movies are just amazing. I really love his stuff. There's a lot of his films I haven't seen. Andy Milligan is kind of a new guy I just discovered. But the movies I do have of his are just amazing. Some of his stuff kind of almost reminds me, even though it might be a stretch, but some of his stuff kind of reminds me a little bit of early John Waters. Like, it's wacky. It's so low budget. It's super trashy. So in that regard, like it reminds me a little bit of early John Waters, and but Annie Milligan, the films I do own are just amazing. This was one Surgikill. I have this on DVD. I bought this at the last. There's been two big sales. Well, they were both last year, but there are two big movie sales at Opera House Video, the video shop right in town that I always go to, and so I snagged up a bunch of movies, and this was one of quite a few movies that I was not able to watch because of my player kind of fizzing out. But I watched this last night. It was funny. I was going through my rack. I was like, what am I in the mood for? I'm in the mood for something kind of wacky and maybe not so serious, maybe a little bit of a comedy. And then I found this, and I was like, oh, wow. And I realized I had never watched it. So I watched this last night. This movie is complete insanity. Like, it's so ridiculous. The whole premise of the movie is about this. It's kind of a slasher movie in a weird way. It's total exploitation, and it's really about this guy who is like the serial killer who is in this hospital on a rampage. But the hospital that the location where that the story takes place in is just completely insane. Like the characters are just everyone is literally out of their minds, and it's very the whole film is very like a surrealist. It has a very surrealist quality to it, almost a little bit like uh, Louis Buñuel, the famous French director who was one of the kind of leading guys in the whole kind of surrealist movement in France in the 60s and 70s and even 50s. But very surrealist, very strange, super funny, and really gory. It's actually a very gory movie, but it's super goofy. And there's like this kind of this almost like a meta vibe to this film where they kind of almost talk to the screen at times, and it's very disorienting. But it doesn't feel like it's ever overwhelming. Like because there's so much coming at you. Like the minute this movie starts. But I had never seen this movie before, and I was just completely enamored with this movie. And it's one of his more recent films. Well, not recent, but for Andy Milligan, this came out in 1989, and it's so, again, it's so freaking wacky. It's so low budget, but it's amazing. The Like I said, the other movie which I did do a review on, Legacy of Blood, which was the first movie I ever came across from Andy Milligan, is I don't know, I love that movie. I just think it's amazing. I bought that movie totally on a whim, and again, that's one of the things that I talk about on this channel. Is there's been so many directors and so many wonderful films that I have literally just seen for the first time where I've taken a chance, and I've read a little bit about it when I go to when I go out shopping for movies, whether I go to, well, most of the time when it comes to these movies, to the exploitation movies, I go to Bull Moose. But I got this. I got some really the last time I went to Opera House Video, I got a shit ton of all of these great exploitation movies. I was super into it. I have this one other movie that I did a review on, which is really almost even more low budget than this, but it's super awesome. The Killing of Satan, and I found that, and I never heard of it. It's like I believe it's like a Filipino exploitation movie, horror exploitation, and it's totally bonkers. But I found that, and then I found this at the same sale, and I was just like, what? But the quality of this DVD is actually really, really good. There's no special features on here. There's nothing. There's no commentary. But this movie is amazing. And again, Andy Milligan, again, a director I never heard of before until last year. And I've seen about 3 of his movies now, and I own about 2, and I believe I have a third one. For some reason, that title is escaping me. But I have to say, I'm really digging his stuff. and I'm starting to kind of learn a little bit more about him as a director. He had a pretty extensive background on theater in as a director for plays and writing theater shows, but very interesting, and just such an incredibly odd person. And this movie is like exemplifies that. And it's funny. I didn't realize that this movie came out in '89. I thought that this movie came out even older, because I do believe Legacy of Blood came out in the early '70s, and so this is quite a few years later. But it feels, even though '89 is a very long time ago, it still feels like this movie is even older. It feels like it's, an exploitation movie from the '70s, but tremendous. I mean, it's bonkers. It's gonzo. I think, and I think in an odd and kind of a weird way, I think this movie actually has a lot of mass appeal because it's really funny, and I think this could be a cool movie. I mean, I think most people obviously, well, most people know are aware of the great TV show that was on back in the day, Mystery Science Theater, where basically the whole centerpiece of that show was exploitation movies and those and how ridiculous those movies were and how they were and they basically are made fun of, but in a loving way. And a lot of those films that were shown in that show are just these great underground exploitation classics, and a lot of those now I do own, and it's wacky. And so I think most people, like, either if they're a casual fan of film or they're really into film like me, you know, I think most people across the board are aware of that show, so they are aware of the kind of the grindhouse exploitation period. But they might not, they might look at it in a light from the outside if they've never sat down to actually watch some exploitation movies. They might be like, just all out dismissive and be like, well, it's just, it's just crap and it's a pile of shit. I'm not going to waste my time. It's so bad. It's just bad. But I think this would be, for that person, I think this would be a really cool movie for that person to check out if they kind of have that feeling about exploitation. Because this movie is entertaining as all hell, and it's a pure exploitation movie. It's got all the great qualities that you want for an exploitation movie, but it has some kind of appeal to it, like almost in a weird, odd way, like a commercial appeal to it. So I think this would be a great movie for people to check out that could act as I don't know, a gateway film to the genre of exploitation. And I've said it many times. I have this sense when I watch exploitation movies and when I go through them and I'm checking them out, the whole thing, around it. There's an element that feels really satisfying to me, more than any other genre in a lot of ways. And I often think, why does it feel satisfying to me? And outside of, say, just getting a lot of fun and laughs and pleasure out of watching these completely ridiculous films. What else? Why is it that I get a feeling of being satisfied? And I kind of come to the conclusion. The reason behind that is how there are so many styles or so many different genres within the exploitation world. Like you have a movie like this that is just completely silly. It's a total like surrealist nightmare or daydream, but it's very gory. It is very dark. It's pretty twisted, but it's got a lot of comedic elements and it's very funny. It's like a slapstick kind of a thing. And then you have a movie like Maniac, which is this brutal, harsh slasher film. And then all of the giallo films. Like if you're in a mood for, kind of a murder mystery film, you have that. If you're in the mood for like, a real satanic based horror film, you can watch, where it's like completely over the top. You can watch a movie like Satan's Blood or Satanico Pandemonium, which is this amazing Spanish film that I'm kind of obsessed with. And so you can watch that, or you can watch like a Angel of Death, Jess Franco's movie, which is kind of this like crime exploitation movie. Or Delirium, which is another exploitation movie, which is like a crime based movie. So you can like, there's so many different. That's one of the things that I love about exploitation is that there's so many different topics, taboos, and kind of subgenres within the confines of the world of exploitation. Like there's so many different styles, and then you have your American directors, which always have a unique voice, and obviously the Italian from the Italian world, the European world, and the last few years I've really gotten into a lot of Asian directors. There's a shit ton of great directors from the Philippines and Indonesia and also Japan that I've gotten turned on to. So it's like there's so much shit, and it's there's so many diverse kind of voices in this weird and wacky world, and Andy Milligan is definitely one of them. I mean, crazy shit, amazing. So definitely check this movie out, and if you see any titles, which I'm in moving forward, that's what I'm gonna be definitely doing in my travels. Is now I'm starting to get more and more familiar with Andy Milligan's work, and I'm really digging his work. So I'm gonna, in my travels, if I come across any of his films, I'm, without a doubt, gonna snatch them up. So, super cool. So this is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace. Thank you.